Hello, welcome to another day after show, joined by DJ. How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. Another win. Can't complain. Happy with the victory yesterday, but I'm also happy with our sponsor. So
Wow, look at that segue to the sponsor. I wasn't prepared for you to pivot that quickly.
hey, you always got to be on your toes because
Yes, but you know who is prepared? It's 305 800 pain. After an accident, every minute counts. With one call to 305 800 pain, you get immediate access to trusted doctors and attorneys who guide you step by step. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, they are a brand you can trust. Much like Five Reasons Canes, 305 800 Pain is focused on the local community of Miami-Dade County and South Florida. They'll handle all your accident needs, including car accident, personal injuries, and related legal matters. So after an accident, be sure to call 305 800 Pain. The number is the brand 305 800 Pain. Después de un accidente, cada minuto cuenta. Con una llamada de 305 Pain, ustedes pueden obtener acceso inmediatamente a doctores y abogados para ayudar con todo el proceso. Con una clasificación de A+ del Better Business Bureau, pueden confiar en ellos. 305 Pain tiene mucho en común con los 5 razones Canes. Están enfocados en la comunidad local de Miami-Dade County y el Florida del Sur. Ellos pueden ayudar con todo después de un accidente, incluyendo accidentes de carro, lesiones personales y otras cosas legales relacionadas. Entonces, después de un accidente, llama 305 800 Pain. El número es el nombre de la marca, 305 800 Pain. Well, DJ, it was a comfortable win for the Canes on the road. Took control early and went up 14-3, and Virginia Tech never got within one score after that. So definitely different than some of the other games they played on the road, where there's been fits and starts. This one was kind of end to end, pretty dominant. What were your overall thoughts on that victory?
yeah, pretty dominant. I was kind of wondering. We always seem to have tightly contested games against Virginia Tech. They took care of business in this one here. I thought the team looked really great. Beck looked sharp. Tony, did his thing again. Big surprise there. I mean, Pringle was able to make some contributions in the running game, and yeah, they just took care of business. And in the last Virginia Tech matchup, there was some dramatics and some theatrics, but there certainly were none here, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, the refs still did their part to spice up the game a little. I mean, we're gonna go through that, and it was not one-sided necessarily. There was one blown call that hurt Virginia Tech too, but it was. I mean, at one point they stopped making calls and would just huddle after like every play and go to the headset. So it was definitely a weird one. Shout out to J Rock in the chat as well.
Hey, J Rock.
To your point, this was the Malachi Tony and Carson Beck show. They were both outstanding. Tony with 12 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown. Carson Beck 28 of 33, 335, 4 touchdowns. Both of them just lit up the game. And we're gonna obviously let's start with the positives because it was a dominant performance. There were some negatives that these two players essentially overcame for the team. But let's go ahead and put up some of these team stats here, and I guess we can start with the offense. We'll do player stats first. We can go team stats in the middle. Let's start with the offense. As I mentioned, Beck had a big game. I guess let's start with the running backs maybe, because this is the first time Fletcher was healthy since Pringle took over the starting job. Pringle did start, get majority of the carries, and then Fletch, supplemented. What were your thoughts on that running back rotation? And the running game was solid, not spectacular. I think it's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was kind of interesting because we saw Pringle have a really great game last week, and we've seen him really come on in the last couple weeks here. So to me, it almost seems like Pringle is, I'm going to say, auditioning for the RB1 role next season, but I'm wondering, part of me is wondering, is this going to be a thing for the rest of the season, and is he going to get the majority of the carries?
Well, I think it's him and Fletch. I mean, Marty got in on the last drive after the game was kind of over. I think it's going to be him and Fletch. I'm not sure if the order is going to flip. Neither of again, we didn't run the ball great. None of our running backs really had good good day in that sense, but none of them had a terrible day either. It was kind of just we're doing a lot of grinding, 3 or 4 yards, except the passing game was so explosive that honestly, like we were just Carson was slinging that rock, and it was chunk play after chunk play, and it's kind of like, all right, maybe we don't need to slam this into the line for 4 yards. So there also weren't as many carries as we would normally have in a game that we were up most of the game. I do think those two are going to split carries. I do wonder if it's going to be, a case by case who's running more effectively. I wouldn't say better because they're completely different styles, and I will say I saw this from both of the backs, which was refreshing because I don't think we've seen it from two backs at the same time this year. Was they were decisive with their runs when there was a hole. They're putting their on hitting it. Virginia Tech did a decent job of clogging those lanes up though, and I think that did slow the running game down. But there was no wasted movement, no bad runs in the sense that the running back didn't execute. At least that I saw. It was more just there were 3 yards, 4 yards to get. They got the 3 or 4 yards, which is kind of what you want. But I think going forward, let's say Pringle or Fletch is having a better day and they're kind of being a little bit more effective. I think you'll see the carry slant that way because I believe they both got in on the first drive. I definitely Pringle was the starter, and you can see from the carries he got a majority of them. But I think if Fletch had started ripping runs off, I think he might have gotten the back half of that game, and I think we'll probably see a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and a two-back rotation is never a bad thing to have, and two backs that you can count on is not a bad thing to have. I did notice that they got Carson Beck involved a little bit in the running game early on, and that was kind of interesting to see just because it brought a different element to the offense, and the plays were for positive yardage. So,
yeah, he was
carry, so.
Yeah, but he was those were a couple of scrambles early, and he was I think he was just very much this is as comfortable as I've seen him in a while in terms of just knowing what he wanted to do with the ball. He was decisive throwing it, and ways like it's not there, tucking it down, just getting some yardage. I thought he had an outstanding game because of that. And then I will say Fletch, he was the short yardage back in this game for the most part and grinded out a couple of short yardage situations. So that was effective as well. But yeah, no, I think Carson Beck was so locked in this game. He was taking his spots to run. Obviously, he was throwing really at a high level.
It was good to see him run a little bit.
It is just because, again, it's all – so one of the things with this team is, avoiding the bad play and just making sure this team is so talented. If you just keep pushing forward, good things will happen. So I think, like you said, it was only 2 times he scrambled for 4.5 yards total, but or average. But those little things, you got 3 or 4 yards instead of throwing an incompletion. That adds up, and I know exactly which plays those were because he slid. At the end of both of them, and the official decided to start the slide. I guess back when Carson Beck was considering sliding and thinking about it, that's when he decided to think the slide started because he moved us back 2 yards both times. So he actually got a little bit further, but it ended up in a short yard situation that the Canes converted. And, if he doesn't make those scrambles, then that doesn't happen. So those were important. That was an important 9 yards on those 2 carries.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's all about moving the chains forward and minimizing the mistakes and just taking what the defense gives you. And I thought he did a really good job, not only in the passing game, but on those rushes as well. Yeah,
and we've talked about Beck. We've talked Malachi Tony again was outstanding. By the way, the pass he threw was just he ripped a crossing route. It was like
I wonder if he's playing the wrong position. I don't know.
Well, I mean, he went through his progressions. The deep ball was covered. He came back underneath and fired it in there. It was just like, okay. Well, we know he could obviously played. We're especially blue, but we're very familiar with Malachi and his high school position play. So it's not surprising that he can throw the football.
It's actually it's really impressive though, even still. I mean,
yep. Yeah, it is. And obviously they're using him everywhere. It was in the running game as well. And as we said, 12 catches, but we've gotten this far, DJ, and we have not talked about the tight ends.
I know.
In particular, the first possession, it felt like, and I didn't realize that was all Lofton did the whole game, but the first possession, it felt like I looked at it and said, it's like 2 catches. That was it, really? Just that first drive? All right, then.
Definitely felt like he was more involved.
I
But
know it does feel well. Um, they did make a concerted effort on the first drive of the game. They were going to get Elijah Lofton the football. I handed him the ball in the first play of the game. For that was his carry, and then obviously later on that drive threw the touchdown to him. But Bauman had, I mean, sort of a drop. It wasn't really a drop at the
that was
goal
actually a
line. He
really
got
nice play
hit.
by the defender.
It was a great play. So it was both things, I think. It was a great play by the defender. A clean hit right on the football. It was a great play. But Bauman also had time to secure that more
Yeah.
before the hit came in. And he kind of left his hands out. You got a snatch to the chest, and he didn't get it in fast enough, but that was an outstanding play. But that's why it was kind of, he potentially could have pulled it in before the defender arrived, but it doesn't. Yeah, but it's nitpicking. It's definitely not a drop. It was a great play by the Virginia Tech defender. But actually, now the stats, Lofton's first drive was basically it for the tight ends. But what did you think about the way Dawson, I think pretty obviously decided we're going to get the ball to Lofton on that first drive?
About damn time. Like, you're not going to stick him in here in the third quarter and say, here, go try to do something. We're going to put you out there and we're going to try to force the ball to you. And we're going to make it completely obvious that we're trying to get the ball to you. You integrate him into the offense early and get him into situations where he feels comfortable. And that's exactly what they did on that first drive yesterday. And I thought they did a really good job of, setting him up for success. Instead of trying to force things to him, they allowed him to make plays. And I wish they did that more this season. We always joke about my love for the tight ends, but no, I wish they did that more this season. But I was really happy with what he was able to do Saturday, and I feel like he's had a couple of stronger weeks. I thought last week he played okay too. So
yeah, he's coming around. I think I don't like them handing him the ball. Like, I think that's trying to like, he's not in. I understand he's a freak athlete. They're like, man, for a big guy, he runs well. It just doesn't translate onto a football situation to just like, he's not, Usain Bolt, where he's just going to run away from everyone like that. Like, and not that Usain Bolt can play football. He can't, but it's not. It's football. Like, you can't just, because I feel like they almost treat him like Devin Hester, just pitching the ball at him. Like, no, he's fast for a big dude. He's not like,
yeah.
So I loved the touchdown play. If you've watched it back, the Bauman actually was involved as well. So your guys, but he ran the safety off, and then you get Lofton lined up with the linebacker who's never going to drop deep enough to make that cover because Lofton's too quick, and that's how you use his athleticism. Like you said, DJ, it's not doing these weird, let's call a reverse to the tight end. Like, that's not the way that you're going to actually like exploit his athleticism. You do it by doing what they do, which is calling a normal play and putting him in a position where a normal tight end might not be able to roast the linebacker like that, but Elijah Lofton sure as hell can. And I think that was a smart use of him, where I think earlier we're like, wow, what a freak athlete for his size. He's still his size. He's not like winning a foot race with Malachi Toney. Like, I don't understand like why we think we need to hand him the ball, but that touchdown play was beautifully designed. Great throw, great route by Lofton. Sold it too, because he kind of played a little coy underneath, like he was going to settle down the flat, and then went over the top line. I thought that is more of what I'd like to see there.
Even still, on the running play, just getting the football in his hands, like just trying to get him involved in the offense to some degree. I thought was a smart move. I totally get what you're saying. I mean, he's not like your prototypical running back with lightning speed. So I totally get that point as well. But just seeing him with the football in his hands and getting him involved in the offense early with whatever it may be, I think is a smart move instead of just trying to have him make plays, cold turkey and trying to force feed him.
Yeah, and he was effective on that drive, but
yeah,
I mean, I was waiting for Virginia Tech, and they never did, to put like 15 guys on Malachi Toney and just like throw it somewhere else, because it felt like every big play that Carson Beck was hitting him and he was open.
Yeah, it did.
So I mean he's just unguardable, which is probably the case. I mean, he's ridiculous. And he and Carson Beck are clearly locked in together. And that combination is really, really hard to stop. And that showed today. Just to J Rob, we're obviously going to talk defense in a bit. There's some issues there, but just to J Rock's comment, after those losses, I was ready to throw Dawson off the cliff, but no, looking back, it does appear it was Mario making ball up the offense, and that cost us severely. So I don't think it was Mario at all. Mario does not get involved in that level. In fact, we now pretty definitively know Mario doesn't call timeouts, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Or is at least not the only one authorized to call timeouts. But I think what happened, I think the Louisville game was on Carson Beck largely. He threw the 4 picks. And the last one was like a miscommunication. One of them was on a 4th down where he was getting hit and he had to just get the ball out. The other 2, however, were deep balls where we're taking shots early in drives and he's throwing interceptions. And I think as a team, and this is Dawson primarily as the offensive coordinator, as a team, we decided if we play it close to the vest, we run the football, we play conservative, we are better than the opponents and we will win the games. And so don't let Carson Beck essentially, don't open it up and let him throw interceptions. And I think it cost us the SMU game. I know he threw that interception overtime, but he was playing well in that game, and we just continuously slammed the ball into the line of scrimmage anyway. Because again, I think we were leading that entire game until the overtime. So I think in our head, I think they briefly took the lead in the 3rd quarter, and we immediately went back and took it back. But I think though, as an approach, we overreacted to that Louisville game. This was a guy who the previous game had thrown 3 or 4 touchdowns against FSU and was frankly the Heisman frontrunner coming into that Louisville game. And I think off of one bad game, I think you make adjustments, but I think we overreacted. And the response there was to go into a shell. I think it cost us. And I don't think it was Mario doing it. I think it was as a program, we felt if we don't screw up, we will win every game. And that's not true. You have to go beat people. And I think that's what we will get to the playoff talk in a bit. Yeah, yesterday was not. Yeah, we're gonna get into all of this. There's a bunch going on, so we will definitely talk about that in a bit. But I don't. So let's see. We'll see what happens with the offense going forward. But I think they're trusting their quarterback again now, and I think that makes a big difference. I don't think you can win. Period. Once you start saying we're going to limit the offense to prevent the quarterback from making mistakes, you're not going to win.
Right.
Not consistently. Yep. And I think that was a mistake that was made.
Yeah. And, I think, again, they were focused on, the talent that Carson Beck has and making those big plays when in reality, he's just as good making the mid-yardage throws, the short yardage throws, getting the ball out quick, not looking for that big explosive plays because, with his recognition and making his reads quick on those shorter throws, those can turn into explosive plays too. So I think they figured out that, making the throws that are there are oftentimes explosive plays as well, and they don't need to be thrown 50 yards down the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think just allowing him to throw more in normal situations because the response, because these were, if you go back to that Louisville game, 2 of the interceptions, one was the one that lost that end of the game was, a miscommunication. It was a conservative play call, though. It was a dump off into the flat. One of them was a 4th down where he's getting hit and he just kind of flipped it up because either way we're screwed. The other 2 were early downs in the play sequence where he's throwing it deep. And I think that is the overreaction was to that. We're not doing that anymore. We're just going to slam it into the middle of the line in early downs. And to your point, DJ, just calling normal plays, allowing him to throw normal passes, not deep balls, but not shot plays necessarily, but just, hey, it's 2nd and 5. Let's call like a 7-yard hitch and just move the chains. Like we stopped doing that kind of stuff. We saw more of that yesterday. And then that caused the defense to come. Then you're able to throw, push the ball more down the field after you start making those plays.
Yeah.
And I think it was just much better play calling because I think especially coming out of last week when he played well as well. But I think they're just like, look, you got anytime you don't compromise your offense because of the quarterback if you think you're a good team. Some teams have to, like the quarterback's limited. Like if God forbid Emory Williams has to play, we're gonna have to change the offense. Like, I mean, that is what it is, right? But this is the guy you went in the portal and got, you practiced all summer with. He's won a bunch of games to start the year. He has a bad game, and then you kind of pull the reins. It was an overreaction, in my opinion. I think it did. I think if we'd played a little bit more open against SMU and allowed him to throw a little bit more down the field, and just in normal passing situations, we probably win that game. But that's water under the bridge now. Anything else offensively you want to talk about before we pivot to the other? We are going to talk about the penalties and all that crap in a bit, but because they came back with a vengeance, DJ. But we'll talk defense first, unless you have something else you want to talk about.
No, I think offense had a really good day, and Beck was sharp. Tony did his thing, and I thought it was a good overall performance.
Yep. And Martin, shout out to Martin, joining us from Botswana. Yeah, Keontae's obviously was injured previously. Jacoby Thomas left the game with injury. David Blay didn't dress. Those could be factors. However, the Virginia Tech ran all over this defense. That is certainly a concern. The 201 passing yards is actually an exaggeration. They threw like a deep pass in garbage time to get over 200 yards. But the 194 was live football that they were just effectively running off tackle between the tackles and kind of really having their way a little bit on the ground. And I know if you recall 2 weeks ago, I was annoyed that Syracuse was effective running on us. Then last week against the conference's leading rusher against NC State, he had negative yardage. So it's like, all right, that was a one-off, but now it's come back again here. DJ, are you concerned with this run defense?
Yeah, I mean, the run defense has not been great, and it's kind of interesting because there have been some games where they look lights out, and then other games like this one where they just look completely lost. So I do think the run defense is an issue. Injuries are certainly not helping it, but this is something that we've kind of seen rear its head throughout the course of the seasons, and like you mentioned, Louisville was one where I was like, red flags are popping up. But I was not impressed with the run defense yesterday, and I am a little bit concerned just because I feel like in this conference, especially, you need to learn how to stop the run. And
Pitt's a good team, and Pitt's a good team. They're gonna run the ball at us, and we're gonna have to be able to stop it. Like that is. They're going to see what Virginia Tech did, they're going to see what Syracuse did, and they're going to hand the ball off. And we're going to have to stop it. And I think Martin's correct. Like, if we'd probably do a better job. David Blay, I believe, was on the questionable list, so maybe we'll get him back next week. CJ Daniels did play a little bit, not as much as normal. He's still, I guess, working his way back. Frederick did not play in terms of the ones we were expecting back. Obviously, Fletch played, as we talked about. Just quick injury update, but it doesn't matter who's out there. You got to stop these run plays. I'm sorry. Those injuries are bad. Those are 3 starters, including our 2 best defensive backs, but you still got to stop the run. Like I don't, and J-Rock saying Bain has slowed down a bit and not in that attack mode. I do still think he's getting held quite a bit if you look at that, but also I think we were really bad at setting the edge in this game against the run. They were able to get off tackle a lot, and I expect him and Mesidor to kind of wall that off and force the plays back inside. And when they didn't do a good job of that, the times that we did blow up running plays, a lot of it was Justin Scott and Ahmad Moten up the middle. So I do think our defensive ends need to do a better job against. They're excellent against the pass, all right, and they're getting a lot of headlines for their pass rushing. They've got to do a better job against the run in terms of keeping those running backs inside and forcing them back to the help, because that was not happening in this game.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you look at the stats right here. Virginia Tech, 5.2 yards per carry. That's not going to get it done. But I do think that this is something that Miami struggled against Virginia Tech last year. Now, granted, the defense seemed to struggle against everybody last year, but I remember specifically Virginia Tech created a tough matchup for them due to the nature of drones being able to run, and then also, just the fact that we struggled with run defense in general. So I think, Virginia Tech is a difficult matchup for Miami in some ways, and in terms of running the football, it hasn't always been the easiest for Miami to stop when they play the Hokies, and we saw that here.
Yeah, I think some of the tackling was sloppy too. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't our best game defensively, and I think we're gonna see probably a little bit, hopefully a better performance out of them next week. Now against the pass, despite again being down Thomas and Scott and obviously Thomas went down this game. I didn't see an update on him, but he went straight to
I
the
didn't either.
locker room, and I didn't see him again on the sideline, so I don't think it was good. They didn't even take him to the sideline; he just walked straight to the locker room off the field, so that's
Usually
not
not a
good.
good sign. Yeah.
Yeah, but the pass defense was excellent. Again, it was kind of a jump ball, deep ball that on a 4th and long on Virginia Tech's last real kind of garbage time drive. That did a lot of those yardage. So I thought against the pass, they were really good. But yeah, the run defense does need to be cleaned up a little bit. And I think the tackling could be better. And then the other thing across the board that could be better, you see the column on the screen, DJ, 9 for 88 on the penalties.
I always just chalk it up as something that needs to be better every single week. That column doesn't even phase me anymore at this point.
Yeah, it's frustrating the way that so I mean we need to talk about the severity of these penalties though. There were personal fouls. 3 of them were personal
Yeah.
fouls. And I think my Wi-Fi is a little crap, so I might be a little choppy here.
No, you're good.
On the hotel
You're
Wi-Fi.
good.
Okay. But it was the 9 for 88. There were 3 the first kickoff, so we're up 7-0, just got a touchdown, covered the kickoff well. I mean, look, we're going to have a separate discussion on the quality of officiating in this conference because it's just completely unacceptable. But, on that kickoff return, they stuff him up. Great job. Swarm to it. There's like 8 Miami players making the tackle. That's what you love to see that. And the whistle blows. And this is right in front of where I was sitting, by the way. And the whistle blows again. And it blows again. And they push him back 5 yards. And there's the guy still blowing. They're still pushing him back. And they throw him down. They get a penalty. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. A lot of officials don't call that because they're like, it wasn't like a malicious, like, it's not like they body slammed him. They kind of shoved him down. But it's like, what are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah, 3
Don't
whistles.
be an idiot. Like, yeah, just stop it. Like, why are you trying to throw the? Why are you pushing this guy back 10 yards and then putting him on his ass? Like, the play is over.
Yeah.
And I think that type of stuff, like that ended up, instead of them starting, at their 20, you got the 15 yards. They got a field goal on that drive basically because of that penalty.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The second, their first touchdown was a face mask on 4th down when the play was stopped. And then the next play or 2 plays after, they had that long touchdown run. Those are unacceptable.
Yeah.
There was one that Carter Davis overcame for us where, we're kicking that field goal, setting up for it. It's a chip shot. I think it was going to be like a 33-yard field goal to go up 2 scores. I go up, I think 17-3. I'm not sure exactly which one.
Yeah, I think it was going to be 17-3. Yeah.
Yeah, and after the play is over, it's 4th down. You're in there, John. You get a personal foul. It's like, just go to the sideline and kick the field.
Yeah.
Like, why? What are we doing? Fortunately, that one didn't matter at all because he drilled the field goal anyway. But if he misses that, you just cost 3 points with that stupidity. Like, the boneheaded. Like, there was some false starting, of course. There was I think 1 offsides. There were those. I think the face mask, frankly, was a terrible call. But we'll get into that. But he was up around the gear, and we overcame it in this game largely because Carson Beck and Malachi Toney just made so many plays it didn't matter. But we've seen this team lose games because of that kind of stuff. I don't understand. Like, these were stupid. Like, I understand. Like, look, I don't think we're officiated fairly. I think we get called for holding, and if they applied the same standard to the other team, would be holding on every play of what they do to Bane. Certainly, like after the play stuff, they want to call it on us. They don't really call it on other teams. So there's like shoving. It's a penalty on us, not on them. I get all of that. That's a separate argument. Again, we're going to talk about the officiating in a minute because there was a bizarrely officiated game, but you don't have to take that extra shove. You don't have to put the quarterback on his ass. Like those types of things. Just go back to the sideline. Even if the guy is jawing at you, it does not matter.
Yeah.
Like we gotta keep our heads a little bit better. I understand it's not fair that that the refs hold us to a different standard and we have to be a little bit more careful, but we do, and that's the reality, and we've got to adjust to it because you do that against better teams, and we're playing a much better team next week on the road as well. It's going to get you beat, and it has got it. Like that SMU game was horribly officiated, and we also false started like 57 times. Like,
Yeah.
so, both things can be true. And, without those, we probably win that game. Without that, we probably win the Louisville game too. So I think, it can be both things. We're not officiated fairly. And if we were, we might be undefeated even. We certainly would have won the SMU game because the game was over when they huddled and picked up the pass interference flag. But with all that said, you still got to keep your heads. The after the play stuff, just got to stop it. You got to stop it.
For a coach that preaches discipline, they're not disciplined at all.
Yeah. No, I think look, I
don't get it.
So I was okay. So here's what I'll say. I was obviously there, and despite Virginia Tech being a 3-win team, that place was juiced. It was packed. It was their senior day. They were fired up. Even like after the first play of the game, they were whooping and all that. And I get it. And I get they are allowed to do it. And if we do stuff like that, they call a penalty, and it's bullshit. Like that can be true. But also, they're going to call a penalty on Miami. You know it. You gotta be smarter. Yes, it's not fair. We're held to a different standard, but you gotta acknowledge that is happening and deal with it accordingly.
It's been this way the entire season, though. I mean, even like the false starts.
It's been this way for years. You know what it is in terms of like the unsportsmanlike stuff. The false starts, and it wasn't that loud that they need to keep false starting. So
no.
But I do think we actually did see some people bench for false start. Like I know Samson was in there, and then he false started and they pulled him out of the game. And I don't think I saw him play again. So I think they are trying to correct that. But to me, like, look, you're on the road. That type of stuff is going to happen. And I asked this question, a few weeks ago. Yes, the false starts are bad, but why are we the only team that once the false start, we automatically means we're not scoring? Well, that first touchdown drive, false started, and that's why it was 2nd and 12 when Carson Beck threw that dime to Elijah Lofton. So
that was a beautiful pass.
Beautiful pass, great route. But that also, like, that's what good teams do. You got to overcome these. And to a large extent, again, Carter Davis picked up his teammate and made that field goal anyway. So that personal foul ends up not mattering. So there's got to be more of that too. In this game that happened. So that's why the game was not close, even though similar mistakes that have cost the Canes games this year happened. The game wasn't close because, other guys made plays and picked up for them. And there's got to be that as well, has to continue because, like I said earlier in the year, that false start on the first drive, at best, you're kicking a field goal now. And instead, he throws a touchdown. No one even remembers that there was a false start in that sequence. So yeah, that was better. Okay, we're going to have to – well, one thing real quick. So I don't know if I have not watched the game back. So DJ, you're going to have to help me here a little bit. Did they explain what happened at the end of the third quarter with the timeouts?
I don't believe they did, no, because I was looking for it too, and they just –
Okay, so here's what happened, and this is why I don't think Mario is the one who actually called it. So that wind was gusting heavy, and there was like 5-6 seconds, whatever, left in the quarter, and it was ticking down. Someone on our sideline called timeout. Smartly, it was a great use of a timeout because that wind was worth 35, 40 yards. It was blowing that hard. And then we had a great punt with the wind at our back and gave them a long field. And you will absolutely take a timeout to get that yardage. Punting into that wind from our 20 would have been a bad idea. So really good use of timeout. However, So they say Miami's called timeout, and I'm like, wow, that was really smart because I'm there, so I can feel the wind. And the whole game, you'd seen kicks going one direction, sailing, coming the other way, just catching and like nosediving. So I was like, that was a smart use of timeout. And then Mario's talking to the ref, and I'm like, man, look at my guy here playing the wind. This is really good stuff. And then he holds up the four fingers like the fourth quarter. I'm like, you call timeout to stop it from going to the fourth quarter, right? And then I think I realized someone else must have actually done that to but anyway, that was a really whoever called that timeout was a very good use of a timeout because
We'll give
saved
credit
the
to
Kansas
Mario because he's had a rough road to timeout. So
Yeah,
we'll give him one.
but I mean, then the whole sideline starts holding up four fingers like we just called timeout to not have the quarter turnover.
We
So
always
get kicked
struggle
in
with
the
time.
wind.
I don't know. Like us and timeouts go together like oil
But
and water.
that was an excellent use of a timeout. I think if you were in the stadium, anyone else that was in the stadium can attest to the fact that the wind was having a huge effect on every kick, and being able to punt that with the wind at your back was very much, especially. It'd be different if you're down in the game and you like we might need to stop the clock later. You knew that was not likely a situation where you need to save timeouts to have them for a last second drive. So it's a very good use of timeout. But I don't know who called it, or maybe Mario called it and then like kind of forgot.
Yeah,
like because they did announce. So it was a little confusing in the stadium for a little bit because they first said that's the end of the quarter. And then, and then there was a huddle and they said correction. And then it was a little bit confusing in the stadium too, but that for one was a very good use of whatever led to that timeout being called. That is pretty expert level clock management, actually, like way beyond our normal level of you didn't call timeout when you should have, like when the clock
maybe it wasn't Mario.
I don't know who it was, but maybe it was. I don't know. I'm not gonna take that away from him. I don't know for a fact, but it was a really smart.
We'll give it to him.
Smart use of the timeouts and the conditions to, frankly, save a ton of yardage. So and we've been talking about that issue too, DJ. Like every time we trade punts with the other team, it seems like we lose 30 yards. So in this case, very good use of timeout.
Absolutely.
All right. We've got to address one more thing before we talk playoffs, and that is. I don't know what it's going to take for this conference to address their officiating problems. Okay. The number of booth reviews was obscenely high, but it started with a number of times they didn't actually make a call on the field, but the play would happen. Everybody's saying like, "What just happened?" Then they would huddle, and you got to make a call. You got to be decisive. And then, there's a couple of really, first of all, there was overturns on fumbles that were terrible calls. That actually their touchdown to get to 17 points, the play prior to that, I thought it was pretty clear Bain is the one who batted the ball forward.
Yeah.
Now, again, keeping in mind, they called that Bain batted the ball on real time. So they said there was enough to overturn that. And this is the second time that's happened against SMU as well, where I don't know where they're getting that conclusion, the evidence that there's enough that's clear that his hand is coming forward in possession of the ball, because Bain's the one who actually knocked the ball forward. So putting that to one side, the sequence, there's a couple of like egregious sequence. One went against Virginia Tech. Well, sort of. I'm going to explain that one in a second. But the situation where they were going for it on fourth down, well, they throw a pass that's a yard short that looked like it hit the ground. They called it a catch. We were running people on and off the field. So I think Mario called timeout to try to prevent too many men on the field.
Yep.
Either before or after, it's hard to tell, he did that. They false started. No one's exactly sure what happened. They said the timeout happened before. Obviously, if no timeout, even if we have 57 people on the field, it doesn't matter. If they false start, the play never got snapped. Therefore, that doesn't matter. All that matters is they false started. They back up 5 yards at the punt. So that was number one. So we've now called timeout. There's 3 minutes or whatever, because they take these long commercial breaks. Come back. They line up. They run a play. We stop it. Our ball. They huddle. They say the replay official buzzed down for the catch that now happened about 10 minutes ago in real time to review it. How does that happen?
I don't know. And
You had the whole timeout and commercial break to say, hey, we're going to review this. They waited until we stopped them to say, actually, right before they snapped it, they buzzed down.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. And watching it on the TV was kind of confusing. I can imagine maybe it was a bit more clear in real time, but
well, yeah, no, I mean, they said the previous play is under review, and then they go back to the incompletion or the completion that was actually an incompletion. So then you're thinking, so as stupid as this has been, because keep in mind, this is what has happened. They caught a pass that looked to be incomplete. They ruled it a catch. They did not buzz down and stop the game to review it. They went up to the line, false started trying to go for it. They said we called timeout. We then go to commercial, come back, line up. They run another play. We stop it. They then stop the game and say, actually, before that last play was snapped, they were buzzed. That is insane. Now, keeping in mind, this is the next sequence. They then go to the replay. You can kind of see the ball hitting the ground. They go call stands. All of that was for nothing.
Yeah.
They didn't change that. You're thinking it must have it must have been so obvious they're going to overturn it if they're going to do that. Nope. They called him over there to say, hey, you made the right call.
Yeah.
And again, that took away our stop. So then they go for it again. We stop him again. They somehow spot the ball for a first down, even though he was short. Actually, if you watch that back, that I did see the highlight of the commentators, like he stopped a yard short. I don't know why they put the ball a yard forward. They didn't review the spots. First down. Ridiculous sequence. We stopped them 3 times and they got a first down. Actually, 4 if you count the fact that they spiked the ball and they gave him a catch.
Yeah.
So unbelievably bad officiating. And then we mentioned this earlier, but the touchdown, the long touchdown they had came after we got a face mask on a 4th down stop. It wasn't a face mask. He grabbed his shoulder. He reached across the face, but he didn't actually pull the face. And keep in mind, the rules changed a long time ago. They used to have that 5-yard and the 15-yard, and they changed it. Everything is 15-yard. You got to actually pull the face mask. Just touching it is not a penalty. So there might have been some incidental contact, but his head didn't jerk because his shoulder jerked because he pulled like that. Terrible call, gave them a first down. And you can see Pruitt, who got called for it, right when he pulls him down. He's like, no, I didn't touch it. They threw the flag right at him. And anyway, that gave them a touchdown. And then, again, to be fair, happened the other way. Well, this is what happened on the other kind of obvious controversial one. So I think it was Bryce Fitzgerald came on a safety blitz. They didn't pick him up. He's tackling their quarterback, who throws a wild heave to the sideline, which their receiver catches, breaks 4 tackles, and runs for the first down. But what had happened is the back judge thought, again, Bryce Fitzgerald was in the process of dragging him to the ground when he threw it. Now, from the replay, it's pretty clear he got the ball out before his knee hit the ground. So it was a good throw.
Yeah, I remember this play. I remember this was something they played really well because I'm like, that.
Yeah, no, he was up. But here's what happened. The ref blew the call on the field.
Yeah.
And called it down.
Yeah.
The play is then over. You can't undo it. That's why I say, so I tell the refs, let the play run, and we can always review and bring it back. Same thing with the fumbles. A lot of times they'll call a play of a fumble on the field so that way the play can finish, and then they can always overturn it to down. But once they call him down, you cannot overturn it to fumble unless it's a clear recovery, and even then, any kind of run back or whatever is negated. So they always say, let the play run through, and then we can always change it back to, hey, he was down. He called it. He 100% called it a sack. It's a bad call. But then they huddled, and instead of saying, hey, we ruled it a sack, which is what they did, they said he accidentally blew his whistle. What, are you serious?
Yeah.
So that inadvertent whistle means the play's a do-over. If they accidentally blow the whistle, So Virginia Tech got screwed because it was a good throw, catch, and run. It should have been a first down for them. But then on the flip side, we also got screwed because if you called it a sack, it's a sack. You can't say I accidentally called it a sack, but it really wasn't. Therefore,
Accidentally blew your whistle. Yeah, give me a break.
yeah, there's no that's it was a makeup because they realized he blew the call. Hey, just say you accidentally did it instead of saying we called it a sack. Because once they call it a sack, they can't the rest of the play because he's blown his whistle coming in. So the rest of the play, I actually don't think we stop playing. Certainly not the defensive backs that miss the tackles. But theoretically, you could stop playing because the official blows his whistles. That's why the play is dead. Yeah. Just egregiously bad officiating again. I don't know where they get these guys and how they're like this bad at their jobs. But I think it was pretty clear on that one. They called it a sack, realized they'd blown the call, and then said it was an inadvertent whistle so that Virginia Tech would get a do-over instead of the sack would have had to stand. Because they can go review and say, oh, we blew it, but they can't let the play continue because you've blown your whistle. So they ruled it an inadvertent whistle and basically did a do-over, and it's ridiculous. It's just the standard of officiating in this conference is completely unacceptable, and they have to do something about it. As much as they're now, obviously the ACC, and we're going to talk about playoffs now, but they're heavy on, hey, Miami needs to go. Miami should be higher and all this. Yeah, well, if you refed your games correctly, we would be. Because that SMU game, 100%, if it's just refed properly, is a Miami win.
Yeah.
And so, but there's no fixing this. They won't acknowledge there's a problem. It's a clown show here. Like that, again, these are just the main blown calls. These aren't even the several times where they throw a pass outside and then it's like, was that caught or not? Huddle. And you can see the official going to his earbud, which I don't know what the hell's going on.
Must be like the replay center, wherever it is.
These aren't even replays. These are just in the freaking course of the game. And then they're like, this is what we decided. The one happened on the last time they had the ball where they called a fumble, we recovered it, and then he went to his earbud and said, they called it a fumble. They signaled us. He's like, fumble. And then he goes to his earbud and says, upon further reflection, we've decided that or whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? If you think it was and it might have been, I don't know, it might have been a incomplete. I don't know what the hell the call. They didn't show the replay in the stadium,
Right.
But like, if you blow the call, you go to the replay and overturn it. I don't understand what was going on. That was egregiously bad. I'm open to all options at this point because you can't have this quality of standard of officiating in a major conference. It is ridiculous. Unfortunately, DJ, I'll have to help you out there, Martin. I was in the stadium. So.
Yes, there was a throw from Carson Beck where where I don't know, like they were still looking at the running back, but by then the wide receiver, I forget who it was, but had already run down the field, and I was so confused because I'm like, wait, where's this play going? And then there was another play where, again, a deep pass, and the camera work was just atrocious. I mean, like, even I could have done a better job with the camera work on the TV because that was bad. I would say there were like 4 to 5 plays missed almost rather than 3. I don't know. If you can't properly film a football game, then you probably shouldn't be in that line of work.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's hard because there's so many cameras. Like the director is supposed to cut between them too. So I don't.
It's probably
anyway,
probably the director and not the.
It could be both, though. I mean, if it's just again the standards are just not there for this conference as a whole, and I know that's ESPN doing the broadcast, but actually the perfect segue into our discussion of the playoffs because the way this conference is treated is partially due to the way they conduct themselves. But so yeah, yesterday not a good day on the playoff front. Martin alluded to this earlier. Everyone that we need to lose out. We'll talk about the conference in a second because that actually was not as bad. But everyone we needed to lose won, including Utah with a huge comeback. Late to beat a very bad Kansas State team at home. BYU, took advantage of Cincinnati's kicker shanking 3 field goals to win that game.
Yeah.
Missouri, who's never been good but is always ranked. Oklahoma gets another ranked win at home over them.
You
So those are
love
the ones that are kind of.
Missouri. Missouri's your favorite team besides the
I
Hurricanes.
mean, I've watched that team for 2 years beat absolutely no one and do
Yeah.
nothing and just repeatedly be ranked, and it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. So that was not none of those results are good for us. I guess the one that was slightly better for us is Oregon beating USC. If USC had won, they probably would have jumped us, and also Oregon probably wouldn't have fallen behind us because they're very impressed with their win over like 4-win Penn State. So, which is what the committee chair said this week. He was very impressed that they beat Penn State at Penn State, even though Penn State stinks.
The committee doesn't watch the games, so
No, they don't. They don't. Yeah, I mean, this is the type of stuff that's ridiculous. As Jared points out, they're talking up Notre Dame's 77 win over a shitty Syracuse team that we also blew out. I mean, and I said this because my brother was like, "Well, I think that did." I was like, "It was done anyway." And once they decided they did two things on the original rankings that are still hurting us. They put us too low. Like us being 18th at that point was ridiculous. But then as we've won and made up ground, they've decided they're going to intentionally keep us behind Notre Dame enough so that they don't have to talk about head to head. So that's why Utah's in front of us. That's why BYU's in front of us. Because if we're up there at 11, we're in the same tier as them and close enough to them where they have to, by their rules, I mean, they'll probably just ignore their rules anyway, which is what they're kind of doing. But by their rules, they have to consider head to head and move us in front of them. So that's why those teams are in front of us. Those teams will continue to be in front of us now, even though objectively, if you watch those two teams play yesterday, no one in their right minds thinks BYU or Utah is better than we're going to be. But they're going to keep them in front of us. They're going to say Utah showed grit by gutting that win out against a shitty team at home. I think we all saw the headlines that they flashed up everywhere. It says Miami survives a scare against Virginia Tech, which was news to me in the stadium since we were up by double digits in the first quarter and they never got closer. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but so I mean that is. But I think they're tipping their hand there a little bit that nothing we do is going to be good enough because they're not gonna take Notre Dame out of these plays, but they weren't going to anyway. That's why I don't think anything that happened yesterday mattered because once they decide head to head doesn't matter, they're gonna double and triple down on it like they have. They're gonna send that clown out there again to make an ass out of himself, but it doesn't matter actually from a result. Or the results on the field don't matter because otherwise you would drop Utah and you'd put Miami in front of them, and then you would say, well, we have to talk about head to head if they follow their procedure correctly, but they're not going to. And the other thing that's going to hurt us, I do think so this is the stupidity of the procedure, but they rank the first four teams, then the next four, then the last four. That's how they do a top 12 and so on. They do it 13 and all that stuff. So by keeping us 13, this is why all this stuff matters. By keeping us 13th and Notre Dame 9th, we're not technically in the same grouping. And so they don't have to compare head to head according to them. So while yes, we should jump Utah and we should jump BYU, they're not going to let us because then we'll be in the same grouping. The other thing that happened is because Oregon beat USC and because Oklahoma had a good win over Missouri, what they'll call a good win, they can't move Notre Dame in front of those teams. If they could, they would make Notre Dame 8th. And then they can jump us over BYU and Utah because now Notre Dame's a different tier still. They're in the 5 to 8 tier, not the 9 to 12 tier. But until Notre Dame can move up to 8, they're not going to move us into the 9 to 12 range. That's the reality of it. Results on the field don't matter. So what do we need to happen next week? Well, Auburn, Alabama. We need upsets essentially. It was Auburn at Alabama. We need that one. Here, I'll pull up the schedule for next week. By the way, they did set our game time. It is noon. Apparently, they don't want me to ever be able to sleep again. That's okay. We'll persevere. We'll get it done, DJ. Haven't been to Pittsburgh since grad school. That'll be an interesting one. And it'll be a cold one from what I'm hearing. Something
Yep.
about some kind of massive cold. Maybe I'm happy for the noon because that'll be warmer. All right, let me.
Yeah, actually, I would not want to do Pittsburgh at night.
Yeah, I lived in Pittsburgh for 2 years, so
I know, but now you're getting
yeah. No, I mean I did not like doing it then either.
Yeah.
I did not like doing it then either. All right, so these are the games. So obviously, like we need upsets. Mississippi State. I'm saying Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss would actually be out at that point, and obviously with the way Lane Kiffin's moving around. Yeah. So the problem with this is okay. So a couple of things. Buckets. Maybe tonight. I don't think so though. I because I'm not going to be able to watch the men's game to talk about it unless it's working. So it'll just be Matt talking to camera. In terms of but we will have one. I think sometime next week. So stay tuned for that. The problem with this is in the past they've said. So this is saying it's going to be BYU's testing in the Big 12 championship game. Texas Tech is going to beat BYU. I would agree, but in the past they've said like they're not going to penalize a team for making their conference championship game. So BYU is ahead of us at that point. I think they'll stay. Like even if they lose, they might stay ahead of us because they said they're not going to penalize them. Of course, that was last year when wins counted and losses didn't matter. So who knows? But I think it's probably a question worth asking. I think we probably need to move ahead of them before that game. By all accounts, we should be ahead of BYU and Utah right now, but we're not, and so it's tough. But anyway, this is what we're looking at for next week. So this is the ranked teams. We'll look at the ACC in a bit. I have a separate thing for that. We're gonna go through what it would take to get to the ACC championship game, which is not technically out yet. But all right. So again, with all the Lane Kiffin swirl, I do think if Mississippi State somehow beats Ole Miss, they have 0 quality wins. They've played no one but Georgia, who blew them out. So actually, Ole Miss low key has beat no one and done nothing, which I'm going to talk about again when we get to the ACC. But Mississippi State upset would probably take Ole Miss out of there. Kansas over Utah would help us, especially assuming we don't jump Utah this week, which we should. You would think. Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech winning would throw a wrench in there. I don't think Georgia would drop behind us anyway, but it would have. You want chaos? Indiana Purdue doesn't. First of all, Indiana's going to kill Purdue, but also they would definitely not drop behind us. We actually want Texas A&M to win against Texas because we don't want to deal with any kind of Texas with 3 losses being a consideration. So we want A&M to win that. And then, I mean, they're just ranking Arizona State to say that Utah has a good win. By the way, they beat Arizona State with Arizona State's backup quarterback. Utah's beat no one this year. Yeah, it's our friend Jeff Sims, that if you remember him from his time at Georgia Tech.
He was at Nebraska too, so I do know him very well.
Oh, he's your guy. See, I'm ACC head. You're you're Nebraska head. But anyway, this is a ridiculous ranking. But if they're gonna keep Utah up in front of us, this could matter.
I think Texas is a ridiculous ranking too, quite honestly.
It absolutely is. They have and this is where the duplicitous nature of this committee really comes into bear heavily, because if they're talking about bad losses and hitting us for losses to 2 bowl teams, Louisville and SMU. SMU is 8-3, and we lost them in overtime on the road, and they're calling that a bad loss. What is losing at Florida? Comfortably. What is losing at Florida State? Comfortably. Like, come on, BS. Yeah. Now on to Saturday. Oregon got their first quality win this week, which was USC, which is also Notre Dame's only quality win. So thank you to USC for actually not being good, but being ranked high for some reason, so that they can claim that these teams have beat people. But yeah, that would Oregon. I think Washington beats Oregon, that opens up a potential situation. I don't know what they would do at that point because they still only have the one good win.
Washington's a decent football team, but I don't see an upset there.
I don't see it. Look, these are all. I'm going to tell you right now, just to temper expectations. I'm talking about stuff that could help us.
Yeah,
one,
sure.
We don't know that it would help us in all these instances. Some of them definitely would, but we don't know for sure.
No, I'm hoping for a Washington upset. To be clear, I'm hoping for a Washington upset. I would love to see.
I know, but I just want to be clear with our
Gotcha.
with our viewers and our listeners, for those that get on the audio, that we are hoping for chaos to mix the standings up, but we don't know what the committee is going to do with that, because they could still screw us. I think they're trying to get as many SEC teams and Notre Dame into the playoffs, and after that, they'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so that's where they're at. I've seen this theory. I mean, let them do it. I'm sick of this shit. Like, honestly, they say good wins don't matter, and then they're gonna put a crap ass Michigan team in there. Forget that. Like, honestly, if they're gonna do that, they're gonna do that.
There's no chance that Michigan is going to beat Ohio State.
Yeah, well,
it was last year, but this Ohio State team.
Yeah, no, I think Ohio State will beat their brains in, but also like honestly, I'm tired of this. Like, every single team behind us just to win like one. Notre Dame is ahead of us right now because they beat USC, who has 3 losses. That's their only win over a decent team. So I'm tired of this crap. But yeah, if they're going to screw us, they're going to screw us. But I'm just telling you what we need. Yes, it would be better if Ohio State beats Michigan to avoid that. Texas Tech at West Virginia. I will say this. If Texas Tech somehow loses that game, that is a good thing for us.
Yeah.
Because that will make sure the Big 12, because the Big 12 right now could be a 2-bid league. If they lose the Big 12 championship game, they might still be in.
Mm-hmm.
So them losing to West Virginia would be good. Obviously, we need to beat Pitt. If UCF can go to BYU and win, that would be good. This is the one Martin's been talking about. LSU traveling to Norman. I don't see it, but if they win, that would, I think, knock Oklahoma out potentially, at least behind us, you would hope. Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
I'm intrigued by this game. I really am, just as a fan.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's behind us in the rankings right now. We just jumped them last week. We should stay in front of them, you would think. Question mark. So Tennessee winning again. You want as many teams like significantly behind us as possible. So Tennessee winning would be good. I think UCLA beating USC could help. Just to like make that win even worse for Oregon and for. And again, I cannot stress enough the unlikelihood of any singular one of these results happening.
I would love, just as a fan, a lot of these results happening though. Like a lot of these upsets.
But these are the types of things we need. Yeah, no, exactly. LSU's not. I'm gonna state it right now. I don't, out of these games. Let's just scroll through this list real quickly again. No. Actually, this one, yes, I think A&M will beat them, but I don't think it's really matters that much. No, they actually lost yesterday, Houston, so they can stop fake ranking them to give the Big 12 teams a quality win, maybe. Ohio State will win. That's a good one for us. No. Better. No. Maybe Tennessee might beat Vanderbilt at home.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
That one might happen. That's not enough to get us anywhere. Missouri will still be ranked, I'm sure, with their 4 losses.
Your favorite second team.
All right, then we get to Alabama, Auburn. We need Auburn to win. That's not going to happen. Illinois lost again yesterday. Got blown out by someone crappy. Wisconsin. So you can take them off as a. By the way, that was USC was ranked that high because they beat Illinois. Actually, they lost to Illinois. That's a bad loss. Get them the hell out of here.
They did lose, yeah.
And then we don't care about this one. Obviously, this isn't happening. But if Stanford beats Notre Dame, that would be
go amazing. Charlotte, just for the hell of it.
Just for the chaos. So I actually, the only ones I think that are helpful to us, I think Tennessee can beat Vanderbilt. And I think Texas A&M can beat Texas, which would, again, protect our rear end, like teams coming up and jumping us. And I think Ohio State will be Michigan, same thing. But none of that's going to allow us to move forward. This is very much not likely. Now, if they were ranking it fair based off of yesterday's performance, and frankly, based off the entire season where we've clearly been better than these teams all year, we should be 11th right now, not 13th. so we shouldn't be really worrying about Utah and BYU, but we are.
Yep.
So there's that. And then we'd be 11th, but then we'd be compared to Notre Dame, so then we'd be 9th. Or they could make Bama 9, us 10, Notre Dame 11. Again, the magic number, even though the top 12 make it, the ACC champ is going to take a spot. The G12 is going to take a spot, and potentially the Big 12 could put 2 in there if Texas Tech loses the Big 12 championship game. It would open up that possibility as a 2-bid league, because again, if they hold to last year's standard, which they have not done anything else, but they hold to the standard of we will not punish you for making your conference championship game, then Texas Tech would be in regardless of whether they win or lose, and obviously the winner would get in with the automatic. So, and also that would mean that if Utah and or BYU is still in front of us going into that, whoever wins that, we're not going to get in front of them. So you really do need to be safe, get up to 9, which shockingly is where they've strategically placed Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But that is the safe spot. And by the way, Bama's safe too, because Bama lost to Florida State from the mighty ACC, which doesn't count for some reason. And so they actually only have the one conference loss, so they will go to the SEC championship game if they beat Auburn, and then if they win that, so they control their own destiny. But again, the whole decision that we don't count the championship games is really because they could go there and get blown out by A&M by 50, and then what do you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're still in.
I wouldn't put them in.
I mean, probably a better example, because I don't think A&M's going to do that to them, and I think Alabama's a really good team. They've won a lot of really good games, and I think last year they were a fraud. I think they're actually good this year, and I think that Oklahoma game was very much a fluke. If you saw how that unfolded, where they kept moving the ball and not scoring, and outgained them like 300 yards and lost anyway.
I think
Alabama was I know that. I'm familiar with your game, guys. I think Alabama's a really good team, and I don't think anyone's going to blow them out. Well, Florida State kind of did, but
week one's always kind of nuts.
But I will say the one that is very possible is, what do you do if they leave BYU up there and Texas Tech blows them out for the second time? You're going to keep them up there because they can't punish them, even though you know for damn sure they're not good. This is where, when they decided they were going to keep us and Notre Dame apart, they messed everything up.
Yep.
Because now, like, how do you justify moving us over those teams when, if they keep winning, because you shouldn't have put them in the front in the first place. So anyway, that is the out of conference. Now the in conference, this is going to hurt some people's eyes, but we're going to do this anyway. Bear with me. Here we go. Shout out to Jordan McPherson from the Miami Herald for putting this together. So Rock and Rant, who I've met in person, friend of the show. BYU is not going to get to 10 though, which is where the conversation keeping them in is, unless you think Alabama or Ole Miss is going to lose, or maybe Oregon or Washington. No. So yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I'm talking about if there's upsets. We're out for sure now, but my point is them being between us and Alabama and Notre Dame hurts, because if we get to 11 and they get to 10 and then they lose the Big 12 championship game, we're not, unless they change from last year, we're not going to get to move ahead of them. So we would drop out anyway. And that's why it matters that they've kept them in front of us. If they had not, done that, and if they had left, if they'd ranked us properly at 11, then obviously we would be higher, because they'd have to consider head-to-head with Notre Dame. But if they'd ranked us properly, we wouldn't have to deal with that. So it's just, we got to get to 9 somehow if we're in front of those two teams, or to be safe. But theoretically, if we get to 10 and jump those two Big 12 teams, and there's one upset, and we get to 10, and Texas Tech just wins out, we would get barely in there because the ACC champ and the G5 would fall in behind us versus pushing us out.
Right. So
yeah, the other as Rock and Rant says, yeah, we need some craziness, but look, this week's, and we're gonna do the show on Wednesday this week, if you recall, so we'll have the rankings in hand, so we'll spend significant time on this, but what we need to happen is we need for them to have watched BYU and Utah play yesterday and say, nope, not good enough, and move us in front of them.
I would
say, no, actually, Miami's better. No, they're not going to, but that is what we would need to actually be in the game. Because right now, we have one more week. Whatever we do at Pitt, they're not going to jump us over BYU and Utah, I do not believe. I'm just going to state that for beating Pitt. So if they do, great. If they don't, well, we're screwed. The thing is, BYU will play Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, so they have a path to an automatic bid. So again, it's 9 to be safe, 10th to have to worry about the Big 12 being a 2-bid league. That's where we're sitting right now. Anyway, so yeah, all those things I went over, we need multiples, as Rockman said. We need like 3 of them. Now for the ACC, this is where we stand. Okay, quick summary of this. You're going to root against Duke. You're going to root against SMU. You're going to root against Virginia. And you're going to root for NC State and Syracuse. Because that's as simple as it is. That's as simple as it can get. These are the scenarios. But essentially what we've come into is a situation. Actually, I should show the let me pull the standings up so I can see where we're at and explain this a little bit better. But this is where we're at. So there are 3 teams at 6-1, SMU, Virginia, and Pitt. If all 3 of them win, obviously we don't give a shit at that point because we've lost to Pitt and we can all end our lives. But that was a joke. Please, suicide's a serious matter. I shouldn't have. That was probably uncouth of me. Virginia, if they all 3 win, Virginia and SMU would go. So that Pitt does need to beat us and help. They need one of those 2. So Pitt's path is straightforward. They beat us, one of those 2 teams lose. For us, we're obviously in that second group at 5-2. Georgia Tech is done with their ACC schedule at 6-2. So they're in the clubhouse, so to speak, using a golf tournament with 6-2. Everyone else still has games left. Now, the way that this works is there's if there are enough losses for us to get in, it'll result in crazy multi-team tiebreakers. And the reason, we care what NC State does and we care what Syracuse does against, they're playing North Carolina and Boston College respectively. The reason that matters is because the ACC is such a convoluted mess right now in the way that they've done the conference, which I'm going to end the show talking about a little bit. They've created this mess themselves. Is we don't play a lot of the same teams. So all the when you go in and look at the tiebreakers, a lot of them, the multi-team tiebreakers, a lot of them are record against common opponents. So when you start talking about a 3-way tie or a 4-way tie, there aren't really any common opponents. That because the common opponent means all of them have to have played it. So because the schedules are so unbalanced. And so basically all of that falls by the wayside. You end up going to a tiebreaker where who played the toughest schedule. And that's why NC State winning and Syracuse winning matters, because they're playing UNC and Boston College, 2 teams we did not play. So we get a win on our opponents in conference record, and the teams we're compared with get a loss in the same columns. And that is why some of the worst teams in the ACC might determine who goes to the ACC championship game.
Which is really
we need playing Syracuse, who is horrible, to be better than playing BC, who was also horrible.
BC is terrible, absolutely miserable.
They're both terrible, and that's going to be a horrible game that might have national championship implications now because of the way they've done this. But back to this. Okay, so here's
the way we plan the season to play out, right?
Yeah. So here are the scenarios. At minimum, we need 2 of these 3 to lose. Duke, SMU, and Virginia. We need 2 of these 3 to lose. Duke is playing Wake Forest. SMU is playing Cal. Virginia is playing Virginia Tech. So again, those teams will all 3 be favored. But we need 2 of those 3 to lose. And then it gets crazier. So if SMU wins and Duke and Virginia lose, then we go in regardless. We're in. We're going to play SMU in the championship game if that happens. So there's that. If Duke wins and SMU and Virginia lose, then we make it against Duke and Manny as NC State beats UNC. If UNC beats NC State, we're then out because, again, it's the opponent's records. If Virginia wins and Duke and SMU lose, then we play Virginia. But in this case, we need Syracuse to beat BC and we need NC State to beat UNC. So that is so if one of these teams has to win, you want it to be SMU, and we're in clean. But there is a scenario where we can make it if 2 of the 3 lose, and if all 3 lose, if NC State wins, we're in. If Syracuse wins, we're in. If they both lose, then they use something called the Sports Source rating score. I don't even know what that is.
I was just about to ask, have you ever heard of that? I haven't.
No, it's some kind of statistical analysis that they do, which I'm sure makes Notre Dame the ACC champion for some reason. So I don't know what that is, but that would be a scenario where Virginia, SMU, Duke, NC State, and Syracuse all lose.
Out of these options here, 1 through 4, and then the bottom rest of the list.
This is part of 4. So if all 3 of them lose, because again, looking back to the standings, the reason this is such a mess is if all 3 of them lose, and that's Duke, that is SMU, and that's Virginia. Duke falls out of this tiebreaker, but it becomes a 5-team tiebreaker with Miami, Georgia Tech, SMU, Pitt, and Virginia.
What a mess.
For 2 spots.
Yeah.
And that's why that last scenario is such a mess if all of those teams lose.
I feel like option 1 on the list here is.
These are not. Look, it's not impossible. I mean, Virginia Tech being Virginia is a long shot. Virginia's a better team. Duke could potentially lose to Wake Forest. SMU losing to Cal is a long shot too. So I mean, I have a feeling if I had to bet, I would bet SMU and Virginia play in Charlotte for the auto bid because I think they'll both win. I think Duke might lose to Wake Forest, but it won't matter for us. But yeah, so at minimum we need 2. So here, again, we need 2 of 3 of Duke, Virginia, and SMU to lose, and then you are cheering for NC State to beat UNC. If that happens, you are in for you're actually not in for sure because you still need Syracuse to beat Boston College if Virginia wins. So at the very least,
Syracuse is going to be Boston College. Let's be real here.
I mean, they're both just awful football teams. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. Where is that game? I cannot believe we have to. What has happened to our lives, DJ? Why are we worried about a Syracuse Boston College game right now?
Because it's all we got. Because quite honestly,
hold on. Let me. I'll pull up.
It's crazy that the results from October and early November determine all of this BS.
Yeah, this is insane. But let me get the schedule for. All right, here is our.
Here we go.
Here's our ACC schedule. As I said, our game is at noon. We don't care about Kentucky Louisville. We don't care about. There is the big boy. 3 p.m. in the Don't Call Us the Carrier Dome.
CW
3-8 against 1-10. We need to win obviously at noon, and that's the scoreboard watching the rest of the day. So these are our 2 first ones. Again, Wake at Duke. Wake is probably a better team than Duke. It's in Duke. It's at Durham. So we'll see. Boston College, Syracuse at the same time.
JMA Wireless
to win that, and that'll take us to the night shift Virginia, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina. And Cal, SMU, all kind of at the same time to determine who. So if we win, we will definitely still be able. And we're back. Hotel Wi-Fi is fun.
Yeah.
So if we will definitely be alive into the night, regardless of what happens. Because we will at worst case be sitting here, even if both these results go against us. If BC were to beat Syracuse and if Duke were to beat Wake Forest, we would still be sitting here needing Virginia Tech, NC State, and Cal to win, and we would still back our way in against Manny. So we will be alive into the night session if we win at noon. But those are the schedules. So yeah, so there's actually, again, we're playing by ourselves at noon, and then it's scoreboard watching to hope Syracuse and Wake Forest win. And then again, if we know Syracuse and Wake Forest have won, then we know we just need. Oh, actually, no, because of Virginia, we need NC State. So we don't know. we'd still need to manipulate. We still need NC State potentially to win, but we would be cheering hard against Virginia and Cal, knowing that one of those and an NC State win. We need 2 of 3 essentially at that point if we get results.
I'm so happy for you that the game is on at noon. I really am. I can't imagine standing freezing my ass off.
Cold. Yeah, I'll have to figure out. Chris has Virginia Tech upsetting Virginia. They did get a little put that freshman quarterback in at the end, and gave him a little spark. We'll see.
Yeah,
that game, of course, is in. If you look at we can hope for some jet lag for the SMU boys here.
I don't
know.
Maybe.
But yeah, these 3 games at night, we will be scoreboard watching regardless. We'll kind of know too at that point because the only game left really that would affect us at that point is SMU and it's Stanford and Notre Dame. Stanford's not beating Notre Dame, so it is. We'll kind of know if we got lucky, like Auburn somehow upset Alabama or whatever. So
SMU and California, 2 classic ACC rivals going head to head.
And then yeah, it's funny because you have 2 of like very ACC games like NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and then SMU and Cal. One of these is not like the other.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is the ledger. So again, we'll be playing at noon, and then we will have an opportunity to scoreboard watch through the night, essentially, regardless of what happens in those 3 o'clock games. But obviously, we want Syracuse and we want Duke to lose. We want Syracuse to win, Wake to win, and then get to this night session and then hope we get 2 out of 3, Virginia Tech over Virginia or Cal over SMU.
That's it?
Well,
that's all we need?
Well,
no.
We need 2 of 3. So if let's say, the best case scenario is Syracuse and Wake win these early games, and that then sets us up for 2 out of 3.
I was being facetious. We need a whole heck of a lot.
Are these lines up yet? So what do we got here? We got Duke minus 3.5. I guess they're just saying no one's stupid enough to bet on a Syracuse Boston College game, so there is no line. But we got Duke minus 3.5, so that's doable.
Both teams are so bad that they can't even make the odds for that.
We got NC State minus 8.5, and they will be heavily favored against Carolina. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Some of these will happen. It's just all of them happening in a manner in which we need it. Stuff. It is possible we get a good mid session here with Syracuse and Wake, and then we'll go from there. Wake Forest has been a much better team than Duke this year, so hopefully that carries forward one more week. And then, if we get to the night session, we're still going to be alive regardless. But if everything has gone bad at this point, then we do need Virginia Tech, NC State, and Cal to all win. If Duke has won, and if Duke has won, period, it doesn't matter if Boston College won at that point. So, because if Duke wins, then that other tiebreaker is gone.
I don't know.
All right.
Well, it's rough.
Anyway, clear as mud. But we are well part. Well, I mean Mario won't come on the show, but but I'll tell you why. Actually, good segue because I'm going to explain to you the huge error the ACC made. So in other conferences, like I don't know the SEC or the Big Ten, you can play no one and they'll still rank you high. That is not the case in the ACC. By following suit with the conferences that get the logo bump when they're not one of those, and going to a single massive division instead of having divisions like we used to have, they have screwed this up. The reason this keeps happening is, the reason this keeps happening, it happened last year too. We were like, well, if we add this and take a square root, maybe we'll get in. The reason it's going to keep happening, by the way, is without absent divisions, you end up in a situation where the teams just play completely different schedules. Like we have not, if you compare us to Virginia, we have not played the same teams. And I think we have two common opponents that we beat NC State, but didn't count as a conference game for them, which is also why this is maddening. But it's just conference. But because of the unbalanced schedules, you're going to end up with this kind of chaos. And it was a mistake to and while that's fine if you're the SEC and someone like Ole Miss can literally beat no one the entire season and be sitting there ranked 6th, that does not work for the ACC. Oregon had their best win yesterday. It was their first, I think it was their first win over a team with a winning record. It was yesterday. And they've lost a game and they're sitting there up at the top. And that is a bump that the ACC does not get. They did not read the room correctly. And all of their teams are being weighted down by this. Those other conferences say, we don't want our best teams playing each other because then they might lose. We know that if Ole Miss goes and struggles but wins at Kentucky, they will call that a good win. I don't want them playing Alabama. And that is how they've manipulated the system. If you look at the schedule that Alabama played, who has 2 losses, versus the schedule that Ole Miss played, they're not even comparable. Alabama's has been much tougher.
Which is kind of interesting because, like you said, last year,
last year Alabama, it was the other way around. But but my point is, for the SEC, that works for them because they'll look at Alabama and say that's a good team. They played a really tough SEC schedule. We're putting them in anyway. And they'll look at Ole Miss and they will non-critically accept that they played a tough schedule because they're in the SEC when they have not. That works for those conferences. It does not work for us. Mm-hmm. You have to adjust to. It's the same thing I was talking about with the officials. They're gunning for us. They're going to call personal fouls on us when we don't do anything. So you've got to be cleaner. It's the same thing with this conference. That if one of the best teams in the ACC went and got blown out by Mississippi State to open the season, that would be it. They would kill us.
Yeah.
Alabama doesn't. It doesn't matter. So you got to be the reality. It's not fair. It's complete crap. But as a conference, you have got to figure out a way to get your best teams into the conference championship game. Period. Look, I've I think been harder on the rest than most people, but we also threw 4 interceptions against Louisville. But also, we're being held to a different standard. We should be in front of Notre Dame too. There's a lot of fraud going on right now, and we're likely going to get left out of the playoffs over some bullshit. That's the reality of it. We earned our way in more so than the teams in there, and it's being manipulated, and we're not going to make it. But the root cause here. And the reason we talked about the rest earlier, so you're more than welcome to rewind because I spent about 10 minutes complaining about them. The problem here, and this is why it's going to be a perpetual problem. Sure, if we go undefeated, we'll make the ACC championship game. But the reason you have 3 teams with 1 loss and 4 teams with 2 losses or whatever is because they don't play each other. They've got to figure out a better way to get the 2 best teams into the championship game. and elevate the level of their conference, because that's the only way they're going to get many bids into this thing. Like, this is a one bid league because no one's playing each other.
Yeah.
And they didn't read that decision to go away from divisions and go to a single amorphous blob of teams is really hurting. It's really hurting the conference. And yeah, they need to go back to divisions, and yeah, that is, and they need to push more for yeah, no, and I do want to address a couple of things, right? So Dirty Kane talking, oh God, my internet's about to go, but Dirty Kane talking about this is absolutely true. This is true as well. And this is true as well. So, man, I'm like teetering on internet, not working. There we go. Those are all true. Here's what I would say, though. I get it, but it's not just the officiating. Like, the conference is fundamentally flawed in the way they've structured it.
Yes.
Too. They also have horrible officials.
But they're doing themselves no
again,
favors.
They're clowns. But you would do something like, how about you could do pods, you could do all sorts of things. You don't have.
You shouldn't have 17 teams
of. You rotate teams through and do all sorts of stuff. Where on a year-to-year basis, though, you're compared against the teams that played the same teams. You can have pod A and pod B, and then have like 3 team groupings, and you can do things where everyone plays the same teams that you're comparing to in the rankings, in the standings. You can do that without even, and then have two of those. Yeah, no, I mean, the whole thing is a joke. The standard, the conference is unprofessional. And all of that is true also. But you're never going to have clean results when you have this huge blob of 17 teams and they're not playing each other.
Yeah.
And you're saying who's higher in standings, even though they play different opponents. And you're automatically going to get penalized because you're the ACC. Because it's not enough for Florida State to blow out Alabama. That doesn't do anything for your conference. Then what is? Because that's one of the worst teams in this conference and one of the best teams in the SEC. And that doesn't move the needle. Then what's going to? And meanwhile, they're giving Oregon credit for beating Penn State. Like, this thing is rigged from the inside, and you have to adjust to it.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I definitely agree with you, too, about breaking them up into pods or something like that. I get
there's ways you can do it where at least at the end of the year, your standings are these teams all played each other, and this is the one that did the best in that competition.
Right. Yeah.
Because right now the schedules are so. I mean, look, there's blame to go around, yes, but lose one game. Okay, so I want to address this and some of the other shit I'm seeing on Twitter, and then we'll get out of here because I gotta catch a flight. But this show's been going for an hour and a half. The problem is, yes, Miami, we should have won one of those games, and we would be in comfortably, and we'd be in the ACC championship game if we beat Pitt, and everything would be sunshine and roses. Now, the problem is, why do we have to do that? No one else has to. Like, why did Notre Dame get to play 2 good teams, lose to both of them, beat USC, and stay in front of us, even though we beat them? Why do they get to do that? Because they also, Pitt, NC State, Syracuse, Stanford after next week. You know what those teams all have in common? They played both of us. They played the same damn schedule we did. Why are they 5 spots in front of us?
Makes no sense.
It's fundamentally unfair, and that's the way the system is. We are being held to a different standard. And it's fine for us to say we made mistakes, we should have done this. Yeah, sure. Ohio State shouldn't have lost to Michigan last year either. But they got to go play for the championship and win it. We deserve that opportunity on merit, and we're not going to get it. It's crap. It's absolute crap. And I keep hearing these BS. Everyone knows you don't lose late in the season. Guess what? I don't know. I've kind of been at these games, and I distinctly remember us on a 3-game winning streak right now. So what's late in the season now? Anytime after the first game? Those weren't late season losses. Those were mid-season losses.
Yeah. No,
they literally are in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
One of them was in the 6th game.
Yeah.
So not that it should matter when you lose anyway. That whole argument is stupid too. But Those were not late season losses. Who's saying they're late? Why are those late season losses? They're not.
They're not.
The Canes won 3 games in a row. They're going to go into a 4-game winning streak.
Yeah.
It's crap. It's absolute crap.
Yeah, now if you drop
late season losses.
Say if you drop this game to Pitt, that's a late season loss. But
then you're done. Then you're done. Then you have your third loss and you're done and everything's done.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Yeah, no, this is the other thing. In addition to the 4 common opponents with us, these are 3 of Notre Dame's other games. Last place P4 teams. They played 3 teams that are winless in P4.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they beat literally no one, and they get to sit up there on their throne. Fuck that school. We shouldn't play them next year. Seriously, if they're gonna,
I don't know why. I don't know why we did to begin with.
Well, we shouldn't. If we can beat them, it doesn't matter. What's the point? What is the point? But this whole thing is manipulated.
Really, the SEC team, like for example, I mean, Georgia played Charlotte yesterday. I mean, so they can play all these games and play these cream puffs, and it doesn't matter.
Right, but we're just being held to a different standard, and it's bullshit, and we're gonna get screwed, and that is what it is. Like, I mean, I don't know if there's any other way to put it. We're better than Utah and BYU, clearly, and we're better than Notre Dame, clearly, because I watched us beat the shit out of them on the field. So I don't know what else we have to do.
It makes no sense, but
anyway, we'll see. Let's hope for some upsets. Again, the show this week will be on Wednesday. Do a little Thanksgiving Eve 6 Rings Cane show on Wednesday, and we'll see how these results play out next weekend, and then a week from Tuesday we will know the end game. But yeah, let's hope for some chaos in the ACC or in the top 10 to help us get up there. We shouldn't need help, but you know, we're gonna need it, and Notre Dame doesn't need help for some fucking reason, and it's the most egregious miscarriage of justice to put them up there for playing 4 last place teams in the P4, as Rock and I pointed out, and 4 of the same teams we played.
Makes no sense at all.
And all they did was beat USC.
Yep.
Who, by the way, has the same record as our bad loss in overtime. So this is nonsense. Anyway. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll probably have a buckets at some point. Not sure exactly when. We got the F1 show back on Tuesday. Big controversy today. If you were watching, well, I guess technically overnight in Vegas. Both McLaren's disqualified, so that thing's back on now. The championship was over, and then the ACC refs came in, went under review, and disqualified the 2 leading cars. And the next thing you know, everything comes up Max Verstappen like every freaking year. Anyway, that'll be for Tuesday. But yeah. Stick with us. We should have a fun show on Wednesday. Blue's also going to talk about all the big games coming up on the high school ledger. It's a huge time of year there as well. And we'll obviously talk the playoffs and look at that Pitt game, which is a tough game, first of all. So we got to go take care of that, win that at noon, and then scoreboard watch the rest of the day and see if we can come out of there with get lucky here and get some losses. We need something to shake up so that they reevaluate, essentially. Hopefully we jump Utah this week, but I'm not optimistic. And if we do, I think they'll wedge us between Utah and BYU. I don't think we'll jump both. And that's all I got, DJ. You got anything else to add here?
No, nothing else. Did you want to do a show next Sunday too? Kind of recap.
Oh, for sure. I think we can actually do it at the normal time because my flight out of Pittsburgh, I believe, is at 6 a.m. So I should be safely back in Miami and in front of a computer. But so I think we'll be back at 10 a.m.
All right, sounds good. And hopefully we'll be talking about a win. And I mean, we can go through all these.
Well, we're gonna know if we're on to Charlotte, which is highly unlikely, or if this regular season's over. So.
And then also next week, or is it next week or 2 weeks? 2 weeks, I think, is signing day. So.
That is right. Signing day is in between.
Yeah, I don't know whose bright idea that was, but
it's before the conference championship games, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So it should be. Yeah, it's in a week and a half. It's in a week and a half. Yeah.
Again, why?
Anyway, all sorts of fun stuff coming up, but yeah, we'll be with you. So yeah, we'll have 6 Rings Cane Show on Wednesday this week versus Monday, and then Next Sunday, DJ and I will be back, hopefully, to talk about a win against Pitt, and hopefully we'll be previewing an ACC, do a little early ACC championship game preview or something. I don't know. Let's be optimistic here.
No.
And I will say, if I'll guarantee, I'll put this in stone. I'll write this in permanent magic marker. If the Canes somehow find themselves in Charlotte playing in that game, they will destroy whatever other team is in there, whether it's Virginia, Duke, or SMU. They will kill them. And anyway, with that, DJ, thanks for joining early today because I got to get out of here. But we'll talk on Wednesday. Thanks everyone for watching.
Absolutely.
Go Canes. There it is.